Galapagos Islands are 600 miles from the Latin American coast, so far that the animals cannot possibly mix with species on the mainland. Really isolated. For millions of years, the animals had to cope or die. The surviving animals and plants that took advantage of their environment, they survived. If they adapted, they eventually formed new species. Anyway, that's Darwin's theory, the one that he figured out in the years after his visit to the islands in 1835. Oddly enough, Darwin's discovery eventually transformed the Galapagos from a deserted volcanic wasteland into a tourist mecca. It happened like this. He figured out that there's no other place on Earth that was so free of predatory humans. So there are thousands of plants and animals that exist nowhere else. All around the world there are folks who want to see what the Earth would look like if the Garden of Eden was really found. The Galapagos had no people to kill the animals, so it reminds you of the innocent and perfect biblical sight. But something happened to Eden. 50 years ago, the Galapagos National Park was formed.
Muchas gracias, muy rico su comida.
Together with the Darwin Foundation, the park proposed a tourist industry that would help pay for the park's upkeep and protect nature. Good idea at the time. So good that the number of tourists has risen from almost 0 to 200,000 per year. The resident population is 10 times as large now as it was in 1970. And here's another thing that happened. The more tourists there are, as in this picture here, the more residents are needed to serve the tourists their food. The sea lions are so human. This one took a liking to my foot, decided that was a good place to rest, and fell asleep. The only choice I had was to turn over to the family and shoot a few seconds of the baby nursing and the family lying in the sand. You never really know what the sea lions are going to do. Sometimes they play happily with people who dive with them, or they may decide to slide their way down to the sea. Here's a male sea lion. Usually there's one for a number of females. He's guarding his area. He's the so-called beach master. He sees the coast is clear, so he's going to take a swim. The other animals on the beach are mainly birds. Here's some boobies, blue-footed boobies, starting their mating ritual. One is patting his feet and prancing, and the other is going to make a call to him. Darwin arrived in 1835. He was really young. He was the ship's captain's assistant. Noticed the finches on the islands. There were not just one or two finch species, there were 13. So he studied the origin of the islands and realized these rocky areas had come from the sea's floor, volcanoes like this one, erupting and making the islands that are currently about 100 in number. masked boobies. The hawks. These red foot gulls with their red goggles, guarding their eggs. Flamingos, pelicans, and the magnificent frigate birds, the pirates of the sky, able to steal food, fish, in this case bread, from just about anybody, even a tourist. The frigates have this mating ritual, including this red pouch. Another thing about the Galapagos is quite unique is that here, right on the equator, are penguins. They're the only penguins that live right in the central belt of the Earth. Here's a pelican guarding her nest. Her two newborns are at her feet, and she's going to feed them from the pouch under her bill. Here's one getting all the way inside to make sure he gets the pieces of fish that are there. The birds and the iguanas get along. In fact, the innocence of the animals and the birds, their fearlessness of people. There never were native predators. The sea lions act as if humans are simply other sea lions. Better watch out for the males, they're pretty territorial. These are the fur seals. They are endangered. They were hunted almost to extinction for their pelts. But really, the story of the islands is a story of what's happened with the people, because the people have transformed the islands from being a pristine world to a world in a crisis. The Galapagos are in the middle of a huge debate now, and the people feel they're being unfairly blamed for the problems. Really, not many people outside of the islands know there are residents, but they make up a population that is pretty significant. 40,000 people now live on the islands, and it is in their hands, the future of these islands. And that was the work that the Darwin Foundation, the World Wildlife Fund, Wild Aid, and other groups, that's their work, is to work directly with the people so that people have some clear idea about this golden goose and the golden eggs, now called tourism, and how to make sure the goose survives and these species can continue to exist in the face of overwhelming pressures from the native population and the tourists. So all these programs here in these pictures are really designed to be ways to get kids in the street doing puppets, biking, basically not driving, and living more in nature. The people of the Galapagos who never appear in tourist books, they're the ones who hold the future in their hands. There are a huge variety from the assistant mayor here. Many of them are surfers. Others are athletes jumping from the cliffs. They're young photographers. They're women who organize campaigns against gender violence. They're teenage girls who have written a poster that won a prize. They're young women who won photo contests. They're people who've initiated recycling campaigns. They're wild and crazy guys who do bike acrobatics. All of them are bringing a new message to the Galapagos, and that is use our tools that we have here to keep these islands safe for us and safe for the animals.